Hello, everybody. Welcome to Proptech Leaders Insights. Today, we have a great speaker. It's Ali Celiker, founder and CEO of British Pearl. Ali, thank you so much for being with us today. Plan for today is a short interview about you, professional experience, and also we want to know a little bit about your company, British Pearl. Let me briefly introduce you and your company so that we put in the audience in context, and then we start with questions. British Pearl is a UK property investment platform that launched in 2010. It lets you invest in properties as either shareholder or lender. If you invest as a lender, you will receive monthly income payments from the loan interest. And as a shareholder, you will receive the monthly dividends. Ali Celiker is the founder and chief executive officer of British Pearl. He's an experienced professional and entrepreneur and has spent the last 20 years in financial services. He thrives on building innovative businesses with inspirational people and is principally interested in alternative finance market with a focus on equity and debt based on collective investment platforms. Prior to establishing British Pearl, Ali worked with the global capital markets as traders and salesperson. He has held several positions in companies such as BNP Paribas, JP Morgan, Martins Brokers, Paloma Securities London, and Mitsubishi UFJ Securities International. Ali holds a BA in Economics and Econometrics from Kent University and other banking-related professional qualifications. Well, thank you so much, Ali, for being with us today. And it's really a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Jaime, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
And we also thank you, our students from the Master of Science in Real Estate. This talk is part for them, but also we are gonna share the talk in social media. The Master of Science in Real Estate at ESCP, it's a very ambitious program. We now have our students being in 2 campuses in Madrid and London, and also we have field trips in Paris. So part of the Master is at the front line. We have more than 45 hours in a course taught by Professor Simone Colombelli on Proptech. So we are very interested in this topic, and part of our ambition is to get and talk to professionals like you. So thank you again very much for being with us today. And if you don't mind, we are going to start with questions.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so let's go back to your early years. I would like to know how that influenced you in the past, I mean, for your success, and if you have any recommendations for how education should be.
I was very fortunate to be sent to a private school, a pleasure that my parents didn't have, unfortunately. And that private school had, Mill Hill School had very good facilities, very good work ethic, very good teachers. So I was very lucky to be in that environment, and it certainly was a wonderful period of my life. I have great memories from it. And I learned certain disciplines there. We're all influenced by our environment, both our parents and everything outside of our home. And that place had a great influence on me. As a person, I've always naturally been quite competitive. I've loved team sport, for example, and the sport was a very big deal at Mill Hill School. And as a result, I've developed lifelong friendships from that place. So I'm very grateful to have been there. Going to a good school is often out of the control of a young person, mostly driven by their parents. But I believe it has a significant influence on your life trajectory and career trajectory.
That's great, interesting. What about your professional experience? You have had positions, as I mentioned at the beginning, in great banks, very important banks at the international level, JP Morgan, BNP Paribas, and others. So what were your main lessons, and how do you think that is going to shape the path of an entrepreneur like you are?
Yeah, at the time it was very exciting to leave university and go straight into a big bank like JP Morgan. I can remember walking onto their trading floor at the age of 21. And it was a huge football pitch, bigger than a football pitch, loads of rows of desks with people standing up, talking to each other on telephones, on computers. I felt as if I was part of the Premier League in football. You know, it was really high level stuff. And the most enjoyable part of that was the international aspect. As a Londoner, I've been fortunate enough to grow up in a metropolis with people from many different backgrounds, but working in international banking really took it to the next level in terms of interaction with people who live in other locations. Certainly working on a trading floor was very intense and demanding. At stages in my life, I managed billions of euros. When I think back at the sums of money, they're quite staggering. I learned to be very diligent in that job, very accurate in my work, and I learned a lot in terms of how to perform as a professional in that environment. And I believe a good foundation like that is essential to your career. So if you're starting in real estate, really look for a good company to go to first and build the basic foundation, pardon the pun, of the skills that are required in that area.
That's a great advice for our students, and we very much agree. Career services here at ESCP is always making that point to the students that they should start in big companies and learn the basics and educate themselves in the business. So I appreciate that you are basically reinforcing our argument. So now going back now to the moment where you envision British Pearl, how was that moment? Because this is probably one of the, from our students' point of view, one of the most important things they would like to know. Like, this time comes, how is that time? How you want to create your business? At which stage of your life you are at that moment?
Timing in life is important in everything, in business, in meeting the love of your life. You know, timing is essential. In terms of wanting to create my own business, that's been a desire from a very young age. So that passion was always there. But when someone exercises that passion is often based on circumstances. And I left capital markets and the security of much larger firms at around the age of 31, at a stage when I wasn't married, I wasn't in a relationship that demanded that I have consistent income. And I was at a period in my life where I had enough savings to take risk. And at that stage, I took the risk of trying to build my own business. Building something in financial services, because our business straddles both Proptech and FinTech, is very expensive as a result of regulations. So when you move, you've really got to take lots of things into account. You know, where am I in my life? Can I take this step? Taking an entrepreneurial step is extremely risky. Don't underestimate that. Many people fail first time round. Some people don't try again and they walk back into the security of a larger company. But there's a lot of value and fun things that you can encounter along the way. So I'm very proud of the steps I've taken, and there are certainly benefits and costs in doing so.
Great. And what about your co-founders? You know, Kabi, Leher, and Anj Latif, or the co-founders. So how was that moment?
Again, timing is an issue. You know, the moons and stars aligning. You know, I went to Mill Hill School with Kobe, so I knew him for a very long time. And Anj Latif, I was introduced to via a mutual friend who I developed a friendship over a number of years. Both of them had different skill sets to me. Kobe was a lawyer, Anj was a software person, you know, technician, and he's our CTO. And both similar ages to me, so 10 or 15 years in having worked in a profession and understood the profession. And they were both at a stage in their lives where they were also willing to take the type of risk that I was. That, you know, that's not it. It's on its own. They have to buy into the business model, the idea, and believe that you can drive it forward. So we all took the leap. We all went into it together. I was in a better financial position than than both Kobe and Ange at the time, so I put in a lot more money. So we financed the business ourselves initially.
No, I mean, that is like working a team, and you did a lot of sports, particularly rugby. Is there any analogy or things that you think you can get from doing sports that help you in your professional life?
Yeah, in sports, maintaining a focused goal and morale in a team is essential. Your team members have to be all on the same page and working towards the same target. That's exactly the same as in building a business. You've got to believe in each other, trust each other. You've got to be very clear on your goal, and you've all got to work towards that goal. And when somebody is failing or struggling, you help them, or you help them to go into that direction. We're humans, so there are emotions involved, and there are things that are happening in your personal life. And if you understand each other and you respect each other and you care for each other, you'll help yourself through that process. Every entrepreneurial business has hurdles. And to get over those hurdles, it's not just your self-determination, but the people around you. So teamwork is essential.
It's a very, very nice analogy. What about now, going back to now, British Pearl itself? What is the business model? How would you describe the business model for an audience like ours?
Well, you have an intelligent audience, so I'm sure they'll get it quite quickly. And if you struggle describing your business model, if you can't say it very quickly, then you're doomed for failure because your customers need to understand it. So simply, we're a property investment platform, and we enable people to invest in vetted properties. Vetted meaning we've already taken it through a due diligence process. And we enable that investment online for as little as £1,000. So essentially, we're giving most people the ability to become their own real estate fund manager.
Wow.
Hopefully that's clear. Yeah.
Really disruptive. What about your clients? Who are your users of your platform, or clients?
Again, our clients are after hassle-free property investment. Simply, they want to be exposed to the property market. Some people may not necessarily be fully interested in real estate, but they love the secured aspect of the returns, i.e., instead of just investing in stocks and shares in a company, they're investing in real assets and they're getting good returns. So if we look at our customers in two buckets. I want to be invested in property and I don't want the hassle. British Pearl does everything for me, and I can do it online from the comfort of my sofa on my mobile phone. Or I've got money in the bank, interest rates are low at Santander, they're not paying anything, and I want to return on my cash because the value of it's being eroded by inflation. So we aim on providing better risk-adjusted returns for our customers.
Now, let's think about a hypothetical scenario where there is an investor who puts his money with British Pearl. He hopes for a return in maybe 5 years, but maybe he has whatever happens in his life that he needs his money back. I mean, what would happen with the money? Would he get the return?
There are two. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Jaime.
No. That was the question. Would he get something, or
So there are two exit events in our business model. We highlight when anybody invests for the first time that they should be in a position to be in the investment for the entire duration. You're correct in saying most of our investments are for 5 years. We had some that were for 3 years as well, so a little bit shorter. So it was a 3 and 5 year product. And we want our investors to look at it as a 3 and 5 year investment product, that they're able to lock the money away for 3 or 5 years. But you're correct in saying that there could be an event in someone's personal life that they need to get access to their cash. And that's why we developed the secondary trading market, so people can trade their shares or their loans between themselves. any exchange, the liquidity of any exchange is driven by the amount of participants involved. So you should expect in an early stage company, when there are fewer participants, for there to be less liquidity. But as the business grows and there are more participants, one would expect there to be more liquidity. So we've always said to our customers in all the risk warnings, do not expect liquidity in the secondary market. But based on what we've seen so far, there has been fair liquidity, and we haven't had our customers calling us saying, British Pearl, I really need access to my money now. So we've done something right. We've obviously delivered the initial message that this is a longer term investment, and we've been clear that liquidity isn't guaranteed in the secondary market. But from a personal success basis, I would deem our platform to be more successful the more liquidity that we have in the secondary market.
It's really interesting. You bring also secondary markets into your business. Now, what about competition? So you are disrupting the market. It's really interesting, a smart idea. It's working. So what about those other disruptive products such as peer-to-peer?
Yeah, there are a lot of so the alternative finance market for real estate is really split mostly into two areas. There's the equity only platforms, and there seems to be the loan only platforms. We enabled both in the same place, and the reason why we did that is we believe both appeal potentially to different customers, but we also believe even the same individual will want to spread their risks. So why not offer them the same product, a variety of products in the same place? And interestingly, 75% of our customer base both invest in equity and debt. The peer-to-peer area is mostly debt-based. So you will find loans in development finance and other type of real estate loans. What I can say to you is, in terms of how our debt product is compared, the average loan to value of our loans across our portfolio is 55%, which means lenders have 45% equity protection before their capital is at risk, which is a very strong conservative buffer. So that's great from a security perspective. Additionally, the properties that we've selected for people to lend into have generally performed quite well. We've had good occupancy rates, we've had no defaults. So our lenders have not experienced any missed interest payments to date since we've been operating. And when they eventually receive their money back, they'll be getting their full loan repaid to them. So if I was a lender on our platform, I'd be quite pleased that British Pearl said they're going to get 4%, let's say, on their money and be paid every month. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Okay. Now, I think you are a role model for sure for some of our students. You're successful. It's a brilliant idea. It's Proptech, innovative. So can you tell us a little bit about which was your biggest challenge in the business?
Yeah. So biggest challenge in most businesses is people. People management is essential. Selecting the right people, keeping those people motivated, and when you work out that actually you've hired the wrong person for the role or they're not performing, dealing with that very, very early on and not allowing it to continue within the business. This isn't a challenge just for startups. This is a challenge for any business. And this is what I've learned having worked for larger banks and also in the entrepreneur community when I meet with other CEOs and discuss with them their challenges in their business. The other challenge that an early stage business has to keep a very close eye on is funding. If you don't have the money, you can't pay your people, you can't push your product, and there is always a point, a period before you get to critical mass, before you get to break even. And that can be a number of years for businesses. So ensuring that you've got adequate funding in order to reach your goal is essential. Those are the two main challenges that I would highlight to anybody.
And now, what about funding? It's probably one of the most challenging things that an entrepreneur has. What was your story for British Pearl?
So our seed funding was mostly a contribution from me. I put 200,000 plus in the business initially, and that was to cover the first stage of expenses, and that stage was getting the business to the stage where it's authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, which is our financial services regulator. So when you're going to fundraise, I could turn around to investors and say, look, this was our business model, and by the way, we've already achieved our licensing, which is a very big milestone. At that point, you've got a certain degree of credibility. You're not just saying to somebody, this is my idea. You're saying, this is the product. We've already got a core team. And by the way, we've achieved a very big hurdle. We've overcome a very big hurdle, and this is a great achievement. And at that point, after funding the business with my savings, we started to bring in angel investors, mostly from finance backgrounds and property backgrounds, because they understood the business model and the value of it. Then over a 5-year period, at every different milestone, at every significant milestone, we raised more money. And over that period, we raised a sum of £10 million. And that money has gone towards the development of the business. It's 100% equity, no debt. I would be very careful about ever borrowing money, and I would never borrow money in a new business with a personal guarantee. That is just suicide. Because
that's a very smart advice. Yes.
Yeah, I would never do that, because if things don't go right, you can't just ring fence it there and move on with your life. You'll have personal implications. So to all the students out there, don't borrow, and don't borrow with a personal guarantee.
I appreciate you saying this. Now, the business looks amazing, really interesting. What are your challenges ahead, like your goals in terms of expansion to other countries? Because I understand that, like, for investors to put their money with British Pearl, they should understand real estate investment at the local level. So maybe from someone in Spain, it might not be that easy to understand the potential for a property. I'm not sure if I'm right, but if I'm right, do you want to expand to other countries? The same business is replicable.
Your question about the future is actually very important, given where we are right now, and this current environment is a great example. In terms of our success, we've been successful in getting to the stage that we've got to, but like a lot of early stage businesses, we face a lot of challenges at this point in time. The coronavirus environment makes funding for businesses very difficult, and also threatens the solvency of the investments. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And I'm going to get onto the international point in a moment. In the UK, in March or April last year, when we went into our first lockdown, the government changed the laws on a tenancy. That if you have a tenant living in your property, rental property, you're not allowed to evict them. And they gave them other protections. And from a social aspect, a moral aspect, I totally agree with that. From a business aspect, it's not a great position to be in, because if you're renting a property to someone and they're not paying you, how are you covering the expenses? And this isn't your money, this is your customer's money, and we're an investment manager for the customer. So that puts the investments that you're involved in at risk. So in fact, what we've done this year is we've put our portfolio up for sale, and we're going to move into government guaranteed rental products, which for this environment is much safer to be. So our customers know that the tenant is supported by government rental, and that's within the UK. So we're going through that process now. So when you enter environments that are challenging, you have to evolve as a business or die, as far as I'm concerned. Prior to coronavirus, at the beginning of last year, we were in Hong Kong, and we were invited there by Alibaba, and we were a finalist in the Alibaba Entrepreneurs Fund, and that was with the idea of expanding into Asia. And in Hong Kong, they've got a very close relationship with the UK historically. They love the UK real estate market, so it seemed like a great place to be because there's a lot of cash there that likes to come to the UK. So we established a company there with the goal of working with local partners to establish a British Pearl Hong Kong. And the goal of British Pearl Hong Kong would be to enable investment in Hong Kong real estate, but also give Hong Kongers the ability to invest in UK real estate. So when they log on to BritishPearl.com, they have a choice: which city to invest in, which property to invest in, and whether to invest as an equity provider or a debt provider. And this idea we would like to use across Europe and the Middle East. So if we establish British Pearl Middle East and British Pearl Europe, what we will do is provide our customers with local investment opportunities, but also international investment opportunities. So somebody in Spain, for example, could invest in Spanish property, and then maybe 10 or 20% of their investments could be in an international portfolio.
Wow, and actually, it's a lot what we teach at the school. Diversification is really important for real estate, and actually, like the United States is a clear example where diversification it's very low now. Like we kind of do the correlation coefficient across cities in the US is close to 1, and it got closer to 1 as we moved to the great financial crisis. And this is something that's one of the reasons why the Americans go outside. So like your point, like offering the same platform, the possibility of diversification, not only maybe within Europe, but also other continents, seems really, really interesting.
Thank you.
Well, now, what about lessons that you learned at British Pearl, like in terms of financial management? Is there anything you want to share with us?
Yeah, I touched on that before, and it was, it has to do with fundraising, financial management. I've always been very good at managing my personal finances, and having worked in the treasury department of a bank, you've always got your eye on what are my liabilities and what are my cash reserves in order to meet those liabilities. So this is a skill that for me was quite natural, not personally anything that I need to work on, but if I was to advise anybody, keep a very close eye on your spending and your cash reserves. Always assume that your costs are going to be 25% higher, and always assume that your funding or your revenue income is 25% lower. And if you take that conservative approach to managing your money, you should be in a safe position.
Great. Now we want to, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we want to keep it short and very interesting, so that also we are going to share in social media. Now, what my last question is, which advice would you give for our master's students? And they are around 23, 24 years average, some work experience. They have passion for real estate. They want to do very well. They want to be very successful. What would you tell them?
I'd build your knowledge within an established company for some time before trying to go on your own. If you have a entrepreneurial streak in you, really build a sound foundation and a strong skill set initially. In terms of the opportunities that will present themselves in real estate, real estate touches so many points of our lives, our domestic lives, our work lives. We live our lives in and out of buildings. I mean, I'm pointing something out that's very obvious, but there is a lot of innovation happening in that area, and there will continue to be a lot of innovation in that area, especially in the area of sustainability and energy efficiency. So teach yourself the basics, become very good at it within an established firm. If you really want to build a career in something more innovative within real estate, keep your eye on sustainability, energy efficiency, and you will get a good idea. It will come to you at the right time. And then if you want to pursue it, you can go it on your own.
Wow.
But go it on your own with people you trust. That's essential.
That's very important. Ali Celiker, founder and CEO of British Pearl, thank you so much for being with us today. It was many great lessons in this conversation. I very much appreciate your time you spent with us. And if I have to, yes, I mean, all of your lessons are really interesting, and I'm sure our students appreciate them. The one that I got most my attention was that never take that on at the personal level, because you may risk your family. So it was a very smart decision on your side. You show people that it can be done without that personal level. And anyway, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Likewise, Jaime. Thank you very much.